phone rings. My brother Jay, just next, older than me, he answers it and says, hello. And he hears this voice. Is your mother there? And he says, yeah, who's calling? He says, this is Elvis. He didn't put two and two together. He said, Mom, some guy named Elvis is on the phone for you. He said, Donny, not only is it true, but your autograph is one of the very few autographs I've ever asked for in my life. It all began back in Utah. I was 4 years old, started singing with my brothers, and the sound was like gold. So my folks took a leap and said, what the hey, we got to get these monsters out to California. And it goes on for 10
Come
minutes.
on, guys.
Virgin Radio 80s Plus.
Donny Osmond, welcome to Virgin Radio and Virgin Radio 80s Plus. It is so great to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. Your songs are amazing. I'm just looking here. Peter Gabriel, Sledgehammer. Now, what a pick this is. Tell me more about this.
This was the first one, yes. Peter was an extremely important person in my life because in that moment when I'm trying to reinvent myself in the 80s, I couldn't get a record deal, nothing. And so Peter did me a lot of favors and got me assigned to Virgin Records and kind of coerced them in a way because the Donny Osmond image back then, which wasn't the greatest, okay? Let's all be honest. And I remember going into the studio when he was, the one before he built this studio in Box. It was called Ashcombe House, and that's where he did Shock the Monkey, Sledgehammer, all the big hits came in from this place called Ashcombe House. It was a barn. And I was the last artist to record in that studio. And Sledgehammer was like one of my favorite. In fact, the album So, I've been asked, if you were stranded on an island, you know that question, which album would you take?
Which one would you, yeah.
So.
Why?
Well, because it was Don't Give Up. There's a song in there called Don't Give Up. And believe you me, that was a very difficult time in my life from a career point of view. And it was that song with Kate Bush that kept me going.
That's hard to believe, actually, because people now, when they think of you, think of a man who's been successful for, half a century.
Well, thank you for saying that, but when you really dig into my career or anyone's career, it's wrought with a roller coaster ride is the way I liken it to. There's ups and downs. Ups better.
Yeah.
But I kind of appreciate the downs in retrospect because you appreciate when things are happening. In my show in Las Vegas, for instance, they call it the entertainment capital of the world, and it's been rated one of the top, if not one of the best shows of Las Vegas. I got that award not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly because of the lows in my life. So it's good to have the contrast. It's better to know the bitter so you can appreciate the sweet.
And from somebody who's been there and done it and learned from it, what advice could you give for somebody who's thinking?
It's a 4-letter word.
Go on.
Work. You gotta work. I mean, when you see this new show that I put together, as well as all the shows that I've done, but particularly this new show that I'm bringing over here at the end of the year, I leave everything on stage. I give 110% because it's everything I've done. I do a rap in the show, Steve, and at first everybody thought this is going to be stupid, but it's a 10-minute rap. And everything I say, you actually visually see on the huge screens behind me. And it gets faster and faster and faster. And it's one of the highlights. Actually, the biggest highlight of the show, in my opinion, is a thing called the request segment, where I put all 65 albums that I've done from the beginning to the current. And anyone in the audience can pick any song I've ever recorded in my entire life, and we do it. And the fun thing about it is the show changes every night. It's all different.
Your next track is Tina Turner. Now, this is a big Tina Turner song. I'm dying to ask you, have you met her? Do you know her?
Tina Turner went through some very similar things where her career kind of disappeared. And when I was doing the Donny and Marie show of the 70s, it was 1977, I believe. What's the artist? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The fifth Beatle. What's his name?
Who is it? This is slightly before my time, but go on, come on, Margaret.
Billy Preston.
Billy Preston
was playing the piano for this one particular song and this big number we were doing on the Donny Marie show.
Yeah.
And Tina Turner was on top of the piano, dancing like Tina Turner, just singing her butt off, man. I'll never forget it. And then, shortly thereafter, her career started kicking in, and she came out with What's Love Got to Do with It? And I was like, Tina, you did it.
And do you put that down to work, as we mentioned a moment ago? Somebody who was just so driven.
There's a lot of ingredients. You can't just say work, because there's a lot of people who work hard but never really make it. You have to have the right people around you. You have to have the right ingredients. You have to have the right song. The timing is everything. There's so many factors and ingredients to create success. But you cannot beat the number one, and that's the artist. And the passion that the artist has for their music and for what they believe themselves and what they can do. You cannot replicate that with any, no matter how many people you surround yourself with, is down to the artist.
And Donny, I'm probably going to ask you this so many times, but I bet you've met virtually everybody out there that's worth meeting. Have you ever hung out with Tina Turner? Oh, do you know her personally?
I can't say. I know her, but I can't say she's a very, very dear friend. But yes, I mean, I had a wonderful time with her when she was on the show. This funny, an experience, as you say, that comes to my mind. I was at the Georges V Hotel in Paris, and there's a knock on the door. I open it up, it's Paul McCartney, and he's standing there with his daughter Mary. I don't do a very good Liverpudlian accent, so forgive me.
Go on.
But he says, "Can I get your autograph, please, for my daughter?"
That's good.
And I said, "Sure." And he hands me a picture of me. And he says, "Could you put it to Mary, please?" So I said, "To Mary, love, Donny." I gave it back to Paul, gave it to Mary, and she squealed a little bit. She says, "Thank you very much." And the door closes. And I'm thinking, what just happened? That was friggin' Paul McCartney at my door that asked me for my autograph. Fast forward a few years. I'm here in London, and I'm editing a music video, and Paul is in an adjacent studio. And I said, I got to go verify this story. Maybe I made it up. Maybe I dreamt it or something. So I walk in. I said, "Paul," I said, "Donny, how are you?" And we started chatting. I said, "Paul, I gotta verify something." And I told him the story just like I told you. I said, "Is it true?" He said, "Donny, not only is it true, but your autograph is one of the very few autographs I've ever asked for in my life."
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
Very cool story.
That is and brilliant impression.
Oh,
I was worried.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Your next pick, and I'm really glad that you've picked the Jacksons, because I always think of the Jacksons and the Osmonds kind of together in the same era. Tell me more about the Jacksons and why you've picked this song. It's This Place Hotel.
Both Mike and I were the 7th of 9.
Wow.
And pretty much the same age, and our mother's birthdays are on the same day. And I mean, it's so, in fact, the very first time I met Mike was, it was at the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto. The year maybe 71-ish, maybe 72. The place was just sold out. I wanted to stay one more night and watch their show because they were following us. But we had a show in another town, another city. But they flew in a day before to watch ours. I'll never forget this, Steve. I'm out there. The place is going crazy. The audience is just packed. And I look to the stage right, and there's Michael peeking around the corner watching me on stage. And in hindsight, it was a really cool moment, but it gets better. After the show was over, we all go back to the hotel, and there's Joe and Catherine on the sofa talking to my mom and dad. There's Jermaine and Meryl talking, Tito and Wayne, and Jackie and Alan, and Marlon and Jay, and Donny and Michael nowhere to be found. Guess where we were?
Go on.
We were in the other room playing with toys. And here again, in hindsight, in retrospect, here were these two massive teenage kids having hit records, and all we wanted to do was be kids. And we were just having fun playing with toys and laughing.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So many questions to ask. What do you think about what happened with Michael?
It's a tragedy. I mean, yes, we all acknowledge the fact that he did some strange things. I was offended when they came up with the name Wacko Jacko. It was offensive because I remember Mike as before his strange thing. Granted, he did some weird things, but he was such a gentle giant. Very kind, very much like Elvis Presley when I first met him. Watching Elvis on stage he was a giant. He was the king of rock and roll. But when I was talking to him backstage, it was just, everybody was just very kind and, just nice to meet you. And I have a funny story about that because he would call my mom all the time because my mom was kind of like his surrogate mom after he lost his. So he called the house one day, the phone rings. My brother Jay, just next, older than me. He answers it and says, hello. And he hears this voice. Is your mother there? And he says, yeah, who's calling? He says, this is Elvis. He didn't put two and two together. He said, Mom, some guy named Elvis is on the phone for you.
You couldn't make it up.
You can't make it up. You can't make that stuff up.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, Earth, Wind and Fire. Let's groove. We're going to go
Well,
disco
let me
now.
go back to the Jacksons.
Okay, go on.
Let me just
Sorry.
say one thing about this song that I've selected. You'd think, Michael, Beat It and the Jacksons, I Want You Back, and all those ABC, all those great songs. I've selected a different song that people know, but you don't hear very often. Quincy did not produce this one.
Right.
And in the pre-chorus, you're going to hear a noise that has no tonal reference to the song at all. And when I heard this song for the first time, I thought, brilliant. This is so cool. But it's called This Place Hotel. And you may not know what song that is by the title, but when you hear this song, you say, of course, this is one of the classic Jackson 5 songs.
Brilliant, brilliant, and nicely told. Now, I must congratulate you. Nobody else so far on my 80s playlist has picked Earth, Wind and Fire. I don't know why. They certainly should have come up a bit more. Let's Groove. This is legendary.
Let's groove tonight. Oh, such a groove, you know. And I've become good friends with Verdine over the years because we lost Maurice quite a while ago. I knew Maurice very well. He's a great man, talented as all get out. But that band, you know, of course, Stevie Wonder was my biggest influence as an artist, but Earth, Wind & Fire was probably one of the biggest influences in my life, especially when I saw them live for the first time.
And why was that?
It was electric because it wasn't just a band getting up there and singing a bunch of songs and playing guitar, especially like Verdine. He is working the stage.
Right.
And that was something I related to because if you go back, way back to the very beginning, let's say Andy Williams show days.
Yeah.
When my brothers and I first started, it was a joke. It was a running joke with Andy and his staff. What can we make the Osmonds do next week? What can we challenge them to do? And they'd say, we want you to do this, and we want you to do that. Play the instruments, play these pianos, play saxophones. And so for us, getting on stage and really working the stage and leaving 110% on the stage every show was my upbringing. That's my training. So when I saw Verdine and I saw Maurice and the rest of the band working that stage, whipping the audience into a frenzy, that's show business.
And what is it with their music? Because their music particularly has stood the test of time. It doesn't sound dated or jaded or past
Do you
it.
remember the 21st night of September? It's still... in matter of fact,
Super sharp, isn't it?
Yeah, you can hear it and you never get tired of it. By the way, a little bit of trivia. Next time you listen to that record, you know the BPMs, bits per minute?
Yeah.
Do you remember? It starts here. 21st night of September. It speeds up. Nobody really notices it, but it's brilliant. I don't know if the drummer did it on purpose or they just got into the groove of it, but it speeds up. Because the tempo at the end is nowhere near what it was at the beginning.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll listen out for that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Donny, thank you so much. It's been so great meeting you and hanging out with you all this week. We can't let you go without you picking one of your songs. I'm going to put you on the spot now. I know you've got about 64 albums. Which song are you going to pick?
No, I've got to go with Soldier Love, and here's why. It was probably the most important record of my entire career.
Why?
Because the 70s was amazing, but there's a lifespan, right? Especially when you're a teeny bopper. Eventually, that teeny bopperism dies because those who loved you, the 12, 13, 14-year-olds, they grow up.
And they have kids.
They have kids. And eventually they say, well, what I used to like at 13, that's for kids. Well, hello, I grew up too, you know? And as soon as Soldier of Love became a hit, that was long-lasting because now I'm an adult. So Soldier of Love was the most important record of my entire career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And I must ask you this.
It put me back on the charts. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to use a phrase that you use over here in the UK.
Yeah.
There was an article that came out against me and I won't tell the publication, I won't do that, but they said, the day Donny Osmond gets back on the charts will be the day that pigs will fly. In 1989, pigs were flying.
You must have felt very relieved when that happened, did you?
It was relieved doesn't even come close. I can't even think of a word. It was just elated, vindicated. You pick it, because I worked so hard to get back on stage, or to get back on the charts, and then I made a move that nobody could figure out. I had a follow-up called Sacred Emotion, and then I decided I got to reinvent myself a different way. And they said, Donny, you're crazy. You've worked so hard to get back on the charts. I went on to Broadway. I did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Of course you did, of course.
And I signed a 6-month contract, and it ended up being 6 years.
Wow.
So that it kept expanding the reinvention to where I am now.
I've got one final question to ask you, just because I'm just so interested. After everybody that you've mentioned this week while you've been in, is there anybody that you didn't get to meet that you always wanted to, but you hadn't? Because you sound like you've met everybody, you've hung out with them, you have stories. Was there one person that got away?
Dead or alive?
Yeah. I mean, preferably alive, with the potential that you could have met them.
I'd love to do something with Bruno Mars. Bruno is kind of like a musical hero right now. He's the real deal. The way he does a live show, the way he dances, the way he sings, his production, everything like. As a matter of fact, this new album, I love Bruno's stuff so much. Rather than trying to hang on Bruno's coattails, I said, no, I'm going to write with the people he writes with. Yeah. So a lot of his influential people that write with him are on this new album of mine. Because again, you've got to keep reinventing yourself, and this new album called Start Again is the new sound of Donny Osmond.
I can't wait. And let's quickly, just before I say goodbye to you, talk about the rest of this year and what's coming up. So tell me, first of all, about the shows you've got planned. Okay.
Well, the concerts that I'm bringing here at the end of the year is, to coin a phrase, everything I've done in 6 decades in one show.
Wow.
And
it's a big show.
In fact, Britain's Got Talent is using "We're Having a Party" as one of the theme songs, right? And I just found this out, so I'm going to have to probably put that song in the show.
That's going to be in the set list.
It's got to be in the set list. And the way I'm going to do it, the way I have it in my mind right now, I haven't produced it yet, but if it comes to fruition, what I see in my mind, it's going to bring the house down.
Wow. Did you also tell me that there's a 10-minute rap?
There's a 10-minute rap of everything I've done. Would you like to hear a little bit of it?
Go on.
It all began back in Utah. I was 4 years old. Started singing with my brothers, and the sound was like gold. So my folks took a leap and said, what the hey? We got to get these monsters out to California. And it goes on for 10
Come
minutes.
on, guys.
And everything I talk about, or everything I'm rapping about, you see on the huge screens behind me. So it's data overload for 10 minutes.
Gosh, it's incredible. And new music as well, new album?
New album called Start Again. And I'm so proud of it, because there's every song on this album is so personal. Amy Wadge, who wrote Thinking Out Loud with Ed Sheeran, she wrote this one song with me, and it's probably one of my favorite songs on the album. A really, really cool ballad called The Way You Are. The way you love, the way you touch. It's really a cool song.
Amazing. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your stories. Have you enjoyed it?
This has been a fun interview. You've done this before. You should do this for a living, you know?
Thank you very much. So many people are going to be so jealous that I've been spending a whole week with you. So thank you. You're a legend.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you. Hopefully come to one of the shows later on.
It'd be my honor to have you there.
Donny Osmond, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.